boy, where to begin? We've got a big boy show for you. Hello, everybody. I'm Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-Cities sports fans. The name of the program is Tri-Cities Sports Now. And you know what I do? I own the Tri-Cities because I got the best guests and the hardest hitting opinions in the market. How good are my guests? Well, you know, I like to be thought of as the ETSU guy. Nothing against Tennessee, nothing against Virginia Tech, nothing against, NFL I love, But boy, oh boy, you got to look at this and say to yourself, what's the big league team in town? It's ETSU. They play a schedule. They play for championships the whole country cares about. 49 states do not care if a local high school wins a state championship. But the whole country cares who wins the NCAA tournament and, to a degree, the College World Series. I might suggest that the FCS is limited in that appeal for football. But we're going to be talking a little bit about that here because the big news coming out that ETSU is getting a quarterback from Quarterback U, or at least it used to be, the Miami Hurricanes. Cade Weldon coming into the fold. Yes, if that name sounds a little familiar, Cade Weldon, a generation ago, maybe, I guess it was 28 years ago, was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy at Florida State. That's the era in which Florida State was always number 2 and Miami was always number 1, or so it seemed. And Miami would beat Florida State on wide right every year, or so it seemed. And Miami would go on to the national title riches, and Florida State would be waiting until 1993 for a national championship that they really didn't deserve. It should have gone to Notre Dame that year, but nevertheless. Anyway, that was the era. But hey, Cade Weldon was the Heisman Trophy runner-up. And his son now, after a cup of coffee, redshirt freshman year, third-string quarterback status with the Hurricanes, will be coming to ETSU, and he'll probably be the starting quarterback. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second, but our show here in about a half hour, I'm going to talk to the new Southern Conference Commissioner, effective July 1, Jim Schaus. He's going to join me on the phone line, and we're going to talk about the future of the conference. Which way for the SoCon? 2 bids in the NCAA tournament. Just missed it this year. It's never happened before. How's he going to make it happen? What about FCS football? I mean, recently it's just been North Dakota State, James Madison, and everybody else. How can the SoCon regain past glories on the gridiron when they don't have Appalachian State, Georgia Southern, or Marshall left in the conference? Let alone somebody like, I don't know, West Virginia. I mean, But that was a while back. That was 50 years ago. Okay, so we'll ask those questions. And about all the other things. Hey, if student athletes can license themselves, I really don't like that student athlete term, but I just used it. Okay. How does that affect a program around here? I mean, let me ask you this. We talked about what could make VMI win again. What if the local Army-Navy store in Lexington, Virginia gets, VMI athletes to endorse their products? I mean, think about that. I don't even know if there is an Army-Navy store in Lexington, but you get the idea what I'm asking here. What about that? So we'll be talking about that 12:30 exclusive interview, Schaus, and I believe this is the first media one-on-one interview that he's going to be doing. You're hearing it. Remember where you hear it. 1420 WEMB Sports Radio with moi, Marky Billson, host of Tri-Cities Sports Now. What's that? You're driving down 26, and oh my goodness, I'll get out of the range. Okay, here's what you do. Jetbroadcasting.live on the internet, or I put the show on Facebook Live for a reason, folks, and it gets archived. And a lot of people see it that way. Okay, so we'll be talking to Jim Schaus. Then, like I said, new quarterback coming into the fold at ETSU. His name is Cade Weldon. ETSU, who used to lose football games 66-17 to the Miami Hurricanes, are now taking their quarterbacks away from them. Admittedly, Miami is saying, go have him. Okay, so let's stop that. They're not taking Vinny Testaverde away here. All right, they're taking Cade Weldon. They're taking last year's third stringer who was suspended for 4 games. I mean, let's face that. But they're getting an ACC quarterback to play. One of 7 possible starting quarterbacks, and I think by far the favorite now, to lead the Buccaneers in 2019, and with 3 years left of eligibility, beyond. Who do we talk to about this? Our old friend Susan Miller-Degnan, Miami Herald. We've had her on, I think this will be the 3rd time we've had her on, possibly the 4th. And just a wonderful football writer down there for the Miami Herald, who's been covering the Miami Hurricanes since at least I know the Coker days. Since I know the Larry Coker days. And I'm not sure how much of it does extend to Butch Davis or not. But she's been doing it for a while, and she's been doing it well, all while being the mother of 3 children. Hey, that ain't bad. But ever since Austin Herink played his last snap for ETSU, and Logan Marchi graduated early, remember, he had a year of eligibility left, but he graduated early. The idea was, from my little birdies, just didn't feel like he fit in. He's from Connecticut. Tried playing in Temple, started for a bit, did reasonably well, but not well enough, I guess, to keep his job. He still has more 200-yard passing games than Jared Guarantano does, even though he only started half a year at Temple. And so then Marcus Satterfield decides he's going to be the offensive coordinator at ETSU, and he's the guy that recruited him at Temple. Hey, we got something here. And then, didn't work out for Satterfield. He went to Baylor, right? What is that? Is he still doing something small at Baylor? I mean, anyway, then Marchi's out on an island. He's in East Tennessee, a Connecticut guy. And Randy Sanders may like the fact that, FBS transfer, threw for 245 yards against Notre Dame. 300 yards against Houston. Let's do it, Let's replace the starter here. He's obviously, Herring didn't play in FBS. It just didn't work out. I still think Marchi has a lot of talent, but it'll go untapped, unfortunately, for him. He was put on an island, and so he decided, you know what, let me get my degree and get on with my life instead of trying to play 1 year far away from home in the FCS. I mean, come on, So who can blame him? But that meant that there were no quarterbacks at ETSU coming into spring practice that had ever thrown a pass or even played a down at ETSU. Think about that for a second. Now, theoretically, there are 7 options at quarterback for the Buccaneers. But Cade Weldon really did emerge as the number 1 unofficially. He's the son, like I said, Heisman runner-up Casey Weldon, announced he transferred to ETSU from Miami via Twitter. The Bucs haven't made it official yet. But, I mean, you got to be one special kind of lunatic if you're making that up and you're Casey Weldon 1, and I'm not accusing the guy of being it. I'm saying, what would it have to be for it not to be true? I mean, some paperwork not get through. I mean, the grades aren't transferring. ETSU accepts 90% of their transfers. They accept 90% of their applicants. I'd think if you played quarterback in Miami, that's pretty fair to Midland elective to get accepted into the school. I don't know what his grades are, but still, So by virtue of just where he comes from, you got to figure that Weldon would be number 1 on the depth chart at ETSU, especially with Randy Sanders' track record of, starting the FBS transfer. Now, Miami, like I said, maybe not the quarterback factory it was in the 80s, but we're talking about someone who's 6'3", 230 pounds, 21 years old. He's transferring in from the ACC, and he studied, maybe he stuttered a little bit, but he studied Mark Richt's system. Weldon's hometown is Tampa. There's another quarterback on the ETSU roster from Tampa. Remember I told you about Weldon? 6'3", 220 pounds. The other quarterback from Tampa, he's 3 years younger, 5'11", 174. Who do you think's going to play? 3 years of eligibility left. Now, 2 months ago, ETSU also brought in Chance Thrasher. He was a graduate transfer from Coastal Carolina. But although Weldon and Thrasher, neither of them really played that much in college. I think it's like 3 passes for Weldon and 2. He may have thrown a little bit more. He started 1 game and got hurt early at Coastal Carolina. But yeah, I mean, Thrasher didn't play much there. But here's the deal. Weldon had the better stats in high school, and he comes from the superior program. Yeah, you've got those wait a minute. This is a stud linebacker from a 5A school. This is a stud linebacker from a 3A school. Which player do we want at our college football program? Generally, just by that, you say 5A. Now, I know you're saying, well, what's his 40 time? And all? Generally speaking, and let's face it, we haven't seen either of these two guys play, transfer from Miami, transfer from Coastal Carolina, what's your first inclination to believe who's better? Yeah, obviously. Now, the next man on the depth chart would probably be Cameron Lewis because he played all the blue-gold game. It was like when you played football in your backyard and the oldest kid was the all-time QB. And after that ball game, Randy Sanders wouldn't even say that he was number 1 on the depth chart, even though he was the only quarterback who was playing. Lewis didn't even dress for the ball games last year. So if that was the guy that was going to be starting, you can see why I say maybe ETSU ought to be Holmes left, Holmes right, Holmes up the middle next year, maybe even out of a single wing and just not throw a pass, at least until Weldon and to a certain extent Thrasher came aboard. Now, there are some red flags with Thrasher coming in. One might figure Rick gave a scholarship to Weldon because of the relationship that he had with his father. Remember, Rick had coached Cade Weldon at Florida State a generation ago, as soon as Manny Diaz replaced Mark Richt as the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes. Diaz said, you know what, I'm dropping you on the depth chart, Cade Weldon. Weldon was the 3rd stringer. Think about that. So, yeah, maybe, okay, he's not all that good. The Hurricanes are 7-6 last year. And also, as I said before, Weldon was suspended 4 games last year for violation of team rules, whatever that is. But the question remains, who's going to block for the Bucs in 2019 also? Who's going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be Thrasher? Who's going to throw? 2. Who's going to catch the passes? Receivers are not the best at ETSU coming back. And they were touched by an angel last year and going 8-4. Let's face it. I mean, missed field goal against Western Carolina, down 3 touchdowns late to Furman. I mean, skin of the teeth against Mercer. A lot of skin of the teeth ball games. Come on, Chattanooga. So matching last year's 8-4 record's hardly a given, especially when you got 2 FBS teams on the sked. And you know something else, the Bucs last year, they really did lay an egg down the stretch against Samford and Jacksonville State, which is becoming sort of an ETSU thing now. Think about how the baseball team this year laid an egg down the stretch. Think about the last 2 seasons, how the basketball team laid an egg, be it in the end of the year, in the SoCon regular season, or this year in the CIT. But that doesn't really matter, because assuming Weldon isn't just having some fun on Twitter, and why would he? I can't imagine why. ETSU is now a better football team than they were yesterday. You know, SoCon John Hooper rightfully ranked ETSU's quarterback situation the worst in the SoCon. Now, it's still the most inexperienced, but there's now a better chance the Bucs won't have the worst signal calling situation in the league because they got 2 FBS transfers coming in.